financial and entertainment epicenter of New York City to the sleeping and empty small cities and towns of upstate, which once bustled with manufacturing, mining, and farming. We all know from inspiration, history, and nature, we deserve a return to the success and growth of generations past, a birthright being squandered by corruption in Albany, and the depredations of an insecure, scheming mountebank posing as governor, who loathes both us and himself. As liberty beckoned to enslaved peoples behind the Iron Curtain via American broadcast after World War II, we now say, believe, rise, and join us. Welcome to Radio Free New York.
All right, welcome everyone to Radio Free New York. Thanks so much for joining us today. Here on WYSL, we are live noon to 1. So if you want to participate in the conversation today, give us a call. You can reach us at 585-346-3000. And what we're talking about today is what moral obligations businesses have in a pandemic. You know, how should businesses be interacting with their employees, and what can they do to keep them safe? What obligations they have to serve the needs of their community, serve the needs of their customers, and serve the needs of their employees. And to discuss that topic, I brought on the founder and chair of Conscious Capitalism Rochester, Andrew Brady. Andrew, welcome to the show.
Really excited to be here. Thanks, Kevin.
Yeah, thanks for coming on again. And so we got you on today to talk about that. Tell us a little bit more about what you do at Conscious Capitalism, just so people have some context for this.
Yeah, so Conscious Capitalism is an international organization. We have a local chapter in Rochester, and it's really based on the principles that business can have a positive impact on its employees and on the communities that it serves and that it's a part of, and ultimately that those businesses end up being more successful in the long run by having more engaged employees, by having a customer base in a community that wants to see them succeed, and they're doing good things along the way.
All right, fantastic. And so you go and kind of work with these businesses and highlight some of the good work that they're doing and try to push them in a more ethical direction.
Yeah, exactly. And so we have a local chapter here. Actually, do a weekly podcast with some local leaders called For the Evolution of Business that you can look up. We actually also coming up in a couple of weeks, we're going to be shifting our what was supposed to be an in-person full-day conference into an online conference. So again, just talking with local leaders, kind of sharing some of the stories of those that are going above and beyond for their employees and for their community in this time.
All right, that's awesome. Yeah, wonderful. So as you know, we're kind of going through this situation. You know, how have you seen local businesses respond to the pandemic? Good, bad, ugly? I mean, what's going on?
Yeah, it kind of goes across the spectrum, right? There's some that in a lot of ways, I think anytime that there's a crisis, it just brings into stark contrast. Some of those that for a long time have been doing some of the right things by their employees and trying to take good care of them, and others that try to exploit the situation. I think there's kind of been different waves of
response to this pandemic, where at first we were having this kind of experience where it was just adjusting to the new normal, figuring out what to do, trying to shut down and where to go from there. And now we're starting to maybe figure out how to reopen and what makes sense to reopen and who should be reopening and who is in a financial position to do that. And so figuring some of those things out, like I thought it was really interesting. I don't know if you saw maybe a week or so ago where they were talking about trying to reopen in Georgia, and they were gonna reopen gyms, and I can't wait to get back to the gym. Trust me, but it seems like it shouldn't be one of the top things to be opening, just in terms of how essential is it and how much, opportunity there is to spread infection in something like a gym. And so they said they were going to open, and then many gyms decided instead that they weren't going to open because, they must have got so many calls. A lot of people were complaining, saying, I want to, shut down my membership or whatever. I don't want to pay because I'm not going to go. And so it's interesting because as much as the, politicians might want to think that they're in control to reopen reopen, or even the business owners might think that they're in control. It's ultimately going to be what are the people going to decide in terms of when they want to go back to the gym or go out to eat.
Yeah, and that's one of the interesting things that I've observed too, is that how the economy isn't just the government opening up, right? It's people, and actually there's a great quote that Justin Amash had put out the other day, and he said, "Government can't really close or open the economy. The economy is human action. What government can do is impede or facilitate people's ability to adapt to change. More centralized decision making means less use of dispersed knowledge. Less use of knowledge means worse outcomes." And his point was against government shutdowns, but what he's saying in part and acknowledging in part is that like people are going to kind of adapt and change these situations regardless of what the government does. So even if you lift the shutdown order, some businesses may choose to stay closed for the protection of their employees, and some businesses may choose to stay closed because their customers just ain't going to show up anyway.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see how that's going to play out, and I do think, to his point and to yours, that there is a lot of power, in that decentralized approach. You look at a big city, obviously is going to need to adapt in different ways than a rural area. I was just watching, the news last night and talking about places that are in very rural areas that have no infections and haven't seen anything and have had to shut down anyways. Now, it does bring some kind of, collective action problems if you were to try to shut some of those things down, in some areas, and to what extent people are going to be moving across borders and, making some of those changes unhelpful. But I do think that especially in this reopening, kind of phased approach, it is going to have to be somewhat decentralized.
Yeah, no, it's interesting because I don't know. I think of you, not to out you on a kind of conservative libertarian show. I think of you more as a progressive guy, and most of the rhetoric I've heard from like that kind of side is like, well, we need this to come from the state, we need this to come from the federal government sometimes, and that's how we should decide because of that collective action problem that you indicated is that, or if you open up. And actually, it's funny. You see this in places like New Jersey, where they closed down the liquor stores in Pennsylvania, so everyone just drove over the state border and went to New Jersey, and they're driving 30, 40 miles to do it. And so that's the argument. I'm making what I would think would be your argument for. I kind of expect you to make that, but I'm glad you're not.
No, I think that I mean, I think this has really proven the point of how fragile things can be when you have something that is either super centralized or super efficient, right? Like our whole, you're starting to see now how, like I think it was Tyson, their plants are, a lot of people are becoming sick, and so the kind of food supply chain is breaking down, and how much more robust and resilient would a food supply chain be if it didn't have these main points of of throughput, and instead it was more decentralized. It was more, if we were more connected with our local farmers, for example, it wouldn't be as big of a shutdown as we're now experiencing. So I do think a more decentralized approach. Now, I think where we may differ is that I do think the government does have a role to play, but I think it, again, the more that you can decentralize that, I think it does make it stronger. But you do want them to be well operating, and as you mentioned earlier, kind of creating the conditions for people to feel as safe as possible, and for commerce to go forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, the kind of meat processing plant thing is something I've been thinking about a lot because there's a Congressman Thomas Massey's been pushing this thing called the Prime Act, which would decentralize meat processing a little bit more because what you end up in that is because of USD regulations, it kind of pushes people towards big processors. So it's the drive for consumer safety that ends up creating a fragile system when we have a break in the chain. And again, why are we creating this fragile system that prioritizes risk adverse behavior over being able to serve the needs of the consumers more effectively?
Absolutely, and I think that what I find really interesting is, how much you've seen, obviously, at a time of great need in terms of people just keeping themselves fed when they, maybe don't have jobs, and the food banks are really having to probably do more than they ever have before. And I was scrolling through my Facebook newsfeed a couple weeks ago, and I have a cousin who runs a dairy farm in Attica, and they were having to dump all kinds of milk, and they weren't the only ones. There was other, I saw, cabbage farmers that had to basically plow over their whole fields and all different kinds of things. And then the very next post right down below that on my news feed was from someone who was, runs a food pantry, and was saying, gosh, we could really use more meat and more milk is what we're really struggling with. And so, like, how broken is that system when, these needs are going on at the same time, and it's not able to adapt because of, all the different levels in that chain that are broken?
Yeah, and that was an interesting discussion we had with our guest last week. Actually, we talked about dairy farming and where the disconnect is in both the processing and how it could be possible to get some of the excess production that's happening right now that was meant for commercial markets into the hands of food banks or into the hands of retailers, where consumption has shifted. And so finding ways to adapt to that situation is important. Again, my inclination in these situations is to adapt and let people figure it out on their own and not wait for a top-down solution. But what do you think of that?
Yeah, I mean, in a lot of those situations, I would agree. I think, though, that one of the struggles, especially that we find always, from that conscious capitalism perspective, is that a business owner, for example, could have a very conscious perspective and try to do what's right by their community and by their customers in the long term. But there's always this pull of meeting the quarterly numbers, right? For whatever kind of financial obligations that they have, and that can sometimes pull them back and make it more difficult.
All right, well, we'll talk about that a little bit more right after the break. Thanks so much, everyone, for joining us here on Radio Free New York. We'll be back in just a few.
Your business relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at Simple Tech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, Simple Tech Innovations should be your first call. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
College Assistance Plus has worked with thousands of families, saving them millions of dollars. It can be stressful choosing the right college, but we're here to help. CA Plus will guide you from college visits to college graduation and through every step in between. Each student and family situation is different, and we work to accommodate those specific needs. Call today for a free family meeting, 585-582-1846, or visit collegeassistanceplus.com for more information. College is expensive. College Assistance Plus can help.
A reminder from Abate Monroe County. American bikers aim toward education. Distracted driving is dangerous, so pull over and eat. Don't try to read your mail and newspaper, and stay off your cell phone. Make a mental note to be more alert, making it a habit to expect the unexpected. Remember to look twice. Save a life. Train yourself to watch for motorcycles which are harder to see. Join Abate, and your family will be protected with a free $4,000 accident policy. Ride safe. Ride free. Ride often. Abate. If you ride with us. Google Abate Monroe County.
Why do businesses choose to move their website from Wix and Squarespace to Simple Tech Innovations? Maybe it's their excellent customer service or attention to detail. Maybe it's their ability to give a truly customized solution. Or perhaps they just like the fact that Simple Tech is a local small business that builds great relationships with its clients. Whatever the reason may be, you can rest assured knowing that the local team at Simple Tech has your best interest in mind when building or updating your website? They're hands-on and love helping customers achieve their goals. But don't take my word for it. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. If your website doesn't match your dreams or isn't achieving your goals, give the professionals at Simple Tech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
You're listening to Radio Free New York.
All right, welcome back to Radio Free New York. Thanks everyone for joining us today. Again, if you're listening to us live noon to 1 on WYSL, give us a call if you want to participate in the conversation, 585-346-3000. But of course, if you're listening to us on YouTube or Facebook, leave your comments. Happy to read those off. Mostly complaints today about me. That's it's understandable about the quality of it. But we did get a comment from Samantha, says government never has a role to play. Anything that is needed or wanted can be provided by the market. So yeah, we can address that, and we'll talk about that too. And also, I want to give a shout out to our stations that are rebroadcasting this show: WUNY, The Patriot down in the Southern Tier, and WACK in Newark. Thanks so much for listening out there as well. But Andrew, you before we went to break, you had said that a lot of companies kind of engage in I might be paraphrasing here, but kind of short-term thinking, how they get to next quarterly profits. Do you want to go into that more, and what do you mean by that?
Yeah, so actually one of the books that started the conscious capitalism movement, it was called Firms of Endearment. And one of the studies that it quoted, I think it was from Harvard originally, but basically looked at companies that asked their CEOs about their kind of long or short-term perspective, and basically showed that 80% of CEOs would cut their marketing or their research and development budgets in order to make the quarterly numbers, even if they knew that it was going to hurt the long-term viability of the company, right? So like the marketing and that R&D, those are longer-term payoffs. And so 80% of CEOs, because they're both probably feeling the pressure and might lose their job, but also oftentimes because their stock options and everything incentivize them to boost the numbers as much as possible. They can also there's all different kinds of ways that they can boost the numbers. They can do stock buybacks that aren't necessarily doing anything innovative, but are boosting the stock price and making them money. And so I think a lot of those ways that when we over focus on just profits, we can lose sight of what we're actually aiming for. Or when we over focus on the stock price, again, there's a lot of ways to kind of game that system and manipulate it that isn't actually productive or showing the health and viability of the company.
Sure, and I'm not necessarily in disagreement there. But, when I see that type of behavior coming from either corporate boards or shareholders who are putting pressure on their CEOs and to act in this way, the way I see it is like, this is just bad behavior that you were trying to correct. You're trying to tell people like, hey, you need to have this long-term thinking. You need to have this long-term thinking about what is good for your company, what's good for your employees, what's good for society, and so the correction of that I don't see is government action necessarily. It's education, and I think you can make the same criticism about government itself. Politicians are looking to look like they're doing something between now and the next election, so there's a lot of incentive to act, to spend, to maybe do something to look like they're being useful, regardless of what the long-term consequences of that action is. The difference is between the companies and the government is the government's able to use force to impose those actions on people, as compared to companies which have to make money, unless they're rent-seeking, they have to make money by serving others. They have to provide a good product that people want to consume.
Yeah, so I'm glad you brought up rent-seeking. I love to read kind of the original Adam Smith, and I think that when he actually talks about free markets, he's talking about markets that are free from rent-seeking. When people talk about free markets today, sometimes they're thinking that means free from regulation. But he was actually talking about free from rent seeking. And I think that one of the things that happen, especially when we're in a society that has so much inequality, oftentimes those that are at the top can use all that extra money that they have to do some rent seeking, right? Like a big company
Actually, can I stop
will
you for a second?
oftentimes try to put regulations in place or create barriers to entry for competition or things like that. That might hurt they're basically shifting resources away from actual innovation, which would help them in the long term, but also help society. And they're shifting it more towards kind of like digging a moat around their business, which I don't see as a positive use of resources, either for them or for society in the long term.
Right, yeah, and I was gonna stop you like, all right, we should define rent seeking. I just threw out this economic term that maybe a lot of people haven't heard, but I think you kind of captured the heart of it. There is that they're using resources to try to do some regulatory capture of the government to try to get the government to create barriers to entry. Instead of using those resources to serve their customers better, they are turning around and saying, all right, government, like keep other people out or keep us safe, and that's how they're going to maintain their profits. And again, my solution to that isn't to, I think that the solution, me and Andrew Hollister, who's the host of the show, and Sean Phelan, who's our agent of chaos, who's listening online right now and is going to be with us tomorrow, we'd all say, well, the solution to that is to make sure that the government isn't putting those regulations into place. And so what is your solution to that? Is to say, well, what, that we need more regulation?
Yeah, well, so I think that there are certain things where I would agree, where sometimes not being able to put some of those regulations in place could potentially solve some of the problems, but at the same time, there's also all kinds of similar things that are just based on purely on economies of scale, right? Like we were talking earlier about the kind of fragility of a centralized food system in that whole supply chain, right? And so when we chase efficiency like crazy, we try to go after these economies of scale, and then there can be huge players in the market of that supply chain, and it makes it more difficult for some of the smaller and in the more decentralized approach to happen. And actually, one of the things, maybe probably beyond the scope of this conversation, but maybe we could talk about sometime in the future, is a proposal that I actually really like, which is called progressive labor standards, which actually, as a company grows, it puts more regulation, whether that would be minimum wages or different things that they would have to do, which keeps them from being able to create these barriers to entry. It allows the smaller companies to be a little bit more agile and respond to the market, and also come in with new different kinds of opportunities. And then as those small companies become larger, they become subject to a little bit more regulation, whatever those cases might be. So because they now have more, opportunity and resources to meet some of those regulations, because especially when you're talking about health or you're talking about worker safety, there are costs associated with that.
Right. No, that's an interesting idea. I think you scared people with progressive. We got a comment about that, Garrett, said you lost me at progressive, but all right. So the idea is bigger companies get more regulations. If you're a smaller company where it's going to be much more expensive to comply with the regulation, that's going to be difficult, because one of the big criticisms of the regulatory system that we have right now is that if you're a massive company, you've got the lawyers and you've got the teams to be able to comply with that. Whereas if you're a small company, you're going to get pushed out, which is way too expensive. You're going to be spending half of your time proving that you're complying with regulations, which is what happens to a lot of companies, and it ain't worth the time, and you're not able to serve your companies well, or your clients and customers well. And so that's interesting. I'm not sure I'm sold on it. Like I'm pretty sure I'd rather just have fewer regulations overall, a fairer system, because I think a criticism of that type of system is, how do you determine what the scale is? And wouldn't it be more fair if we had one set of laws that apply to everybody equally?
Yeah. So what happens in that system is, if it is put at a baseline level like that, is that eventually, even if there's just a small difference initially in, say, 2 different companies, and one is just slightly more productive or efficient or whatever, that's going to compound over time. So that one company is going to become huge and become the main player in the market, and basically force the other ones out.
All right, interesting. All right, well, we'll pick up this conversation after a 3-minute break. Thanks again, everyone, for joining us here on Radio Free New York. We are joined by Andrew Brady, the founder and chair of Conscious Capitalism Rochester. We'll be back in just a few.
Now, more than twice the power.
WYSL.
More powerful FM 92.1, FM 95.5 West, and 1040 AM WYSL Avon Rochester.
Here's the latest forecast from the News 10 NBC Weather Center for today. We'll see rain on the increase, especially by midday. Could be a few downpours this afternoon. It's a little bit breezy out there. Temps today in the low to mid 60s. For tonight, we'll have showers out there. Temps down into the 40s to near 50. A bit cooler out there. And for Friday, some showers likely. Temperatures in the 50s and low 60s. I'm Rich Caniglia, WYSL.
Why do businesses choose to move their website from Wix and Squarespace to SimpleTech Innovations? Maybe it's their excellent customer service or attention to detail. Maybe it's their ability to give a truly customized solution. Or perhaps they just like the fact that SimpleTech is a local small business that builds great relationships with its clients. Whatever the reason may be, you can rest assured knowing that the local team at SimpleTech has your best interest in mind when building or updating your website. They're hands-on and love helping customers achieve their goals. But don't take my word for it. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. If your website doesn't match your dreams or isn't achieving your goals, give the professionals at SimpleTech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. SimpleTech Innovations.
G'day, I'm Scott from Plug-In Pest Free. Ever since I was a small child, I have always loved the United States of America. One thing I love is seeing how Americans come together and help each other in times of crisis. It truly is unique. As we have learned even more so of good hygiene these past few weeks, it is important to know another threat that has been around us since forever: rodents. Rodents carry many diseases with them we do not want around us or in our homes. You can learn about all the diseases rodents carry online with just a few clicks. One of the best and most humane ways to keep them out of your home is with Plug-In Pest Free. Plug-In Pest Free sets up a no-go zone in your home utilizing the active electrical wiring. Now that's fair dinkum. Look us up at gopestfree.com today. Use promo code PEST20 for 20% off. That's gopestfree.com, promo code PEST20. Don't spray and regret. Plug in and forget.
As the snow disappears, your lawn and all the winter debris is revealed for all the world to see. Want to save on gas and repairs and have more time with your family this summer? Let Cook's Landscaping and Lawn Mowing take over. Instead of servicing, maintaining, and replacing lawnmowers, string trimmers, and tools, Cook's saves you time and money by mowing your lawn automatically whenever it needs it. Pruning, trimming, and mulching, whatever is needed. Need more extensive landscaping? Cook's does it all. From lawn installation for those new homes to plantings and design. Cook's also does paver patios, walkways, retaining walls, and creative entryways. Also featuring natural rock and fieldstone to welcome visitors to your home or business. Water garden installation too. Don't spend those precious sunny days riding around on a lawn tractor or horsing around with a hedge trimmer. Call Cook's Lawn Mowing and Landscaping and reclaim the nice weather for you and your family. It's affordable and easy. No obligation free estimates from locally owned Cook's Lawn Mowing and Landscaping. 329-8175. 329-8175.
When you feel sick sick for whatever reason, don't wait to get help. Noise Health Urgent Care now offers telemedicine appointments using your device to meet with a provider face-to-face from the comfort of your home. Call 585-243-9595 to schedule an appointment. Noise Health Urgent Care is open from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. 7 days a week, even weekends and holidays. Walk-ins welcome at our Geneseo location, 50 East South Street. Digital X-ray available too. Noise Health Urgent Care. Your health care, your way.
Mother's Day weekend, take Mom for a leisurely drive. Stokey Farms will offer fresh apple cider donuts Saturday, May 9th and Sunday, May 10th from 10 to 2. Choose curbside pickup of 1 or 2 dozen. As a special bonus, take a 3/4-mile drive through our picturesque farm. See our camels, wallabies, and goats. Donuts must be pre-purchased at StokeyFarms.com. Enter discount code DONUTWYSL for $2 off. A portion of the proceeds will go directly to Camp Good Days. Visit StokeyFarms.com.
Avon Gun and Hunting Supply reminds you to keep safe. Avon Gun is open for sales and repairs by appointment only. Call 226-8277. That's 226-8277. Avon Gun, East Main Street, next to the Bank of Castile.
Liberty Dental in Greece is open for your emergency dental needs. We are available 7 days a week and can see emergency patients the same day. We accept Medicaid and ensure the latest sterilization techniques for your safety. Call Liberty Dental today, 434-2090.
You're listening to Radio Free New York.
All right, welcome back to Radio Free New York, everyone. We are joined today by Andrew Brady, the founder and chair of Conscious Capitalism Rochester, and we are talking about kind of morals and ethics of businesses during a pandemic, but generally too. We've kind of broadened the topic a bit. And, we were talking with the producer over the break about some of these stores bringing in pallets of toilet paper, and they're mentioning, they're selling them for like 59 cents a piece or 79 cents a piece, and I didn't know if that was a good deal or not. But it got me thinking about the idea of price gouging, because in New York State, it's definitely illegal to quote-unquote price gouge, but economists might argue that by raising prices when there's a scarcity of products, you make sure that there is a preservation of those products, that more people are able to access them. So I wanted to ask Andrew about, is price gouging moral? Is it okay for businesses or entrepreneurs to engage in that type of behavior? And should it be regulated?
Yeah, it's interesting to me because I think that in some ways you're throwing out some of the normal rules during a pandemic, because in general, like in the long term, maybe if you increase the price of something, right, then there's going to be higher profit margins and maybe more people go into the business, the quantities can go up. I don't know necessarily that either that's needed or going to happen with, for example, toilet paper in a pandemic, because theoretically we're still using as much toilet paper as we were before. Although, as we were talking about over the break, some of that was going to the commercial realm because people were, using it at offices and buildings like that, versus what goes to the goes to people's homes. So there's different elements of that, but if you bring it back to kind of that big company versus small company, right? Like, think about if there were couple of decades ago, right, that there's 2 online marketplaces, one being Amazon and one being, I don't know, however many others that have gone by the wayside because Amazon has continued to grow. And now that Amazon has all of this power, they are the marketplace for both buyers and sellers, and they have a tremendous amount of power to actually both on the supplier side, they can basically, if people want to get their products out in front of customers, and they want to go on Amazon can basically dictate the terms. Similarly, because Amazon has this power on the other end, where they are basically able, they have so much data on what we're buying and all those other sorts of things, where it's almost impossible for another marketplace to be able to exist. And so what if Amazon was held to that higher standard with whatever kinds of standards might be necessary for health, for safety, for workers and things like that? It might open up opportunities for smaller players to come into the mix. And so that's just kind of that argument there, that it would actually create more innovation, because right now because Amazon has so much money, they can engage in all kinds of rent seeking, and really they've created all kinds of jobs that aren't able to, you can't pay the bills working at Amazon or working in so many of these kind of like gig workers that are, whether it's Uber or whatever, they're not able to actually make a living working 40, 50, 60 hours a week, which makes it really difficult, because right now there's some of us that are able to basically shut ourselves in at home and basically outsource all the risk of getting this virus to all the people that are delivering all of our packages or our groceries or all of those sorts of things.
All right, there's a lot to unpack there, because you made a few points, many of which I don't necessarily agree with. One is I don't know that Amazon is setting the prices for these items, right? It's not like Amazon is the primary seller for these. They are just the conduit through which sellers are selling stuff. And what they ended up doing is they ended up capping the prices for things like hand sanitizer and toilet paper on Amazon, and actually preventing more people from getting those goods. Or, if I'm being charitable about it, erasing the incentive for people to hoard the items and then resell them, which is a practice that's been going on Amazon for a while. And there's I'll post it in the comments for those listening online, but there's a great Planet Money podcast about how people do this with diapers a lot. And you have to ask, like, okay, there's a reason people are doing this, though. They're paying marked up prices for diapers, buying them on Amazon. Why are they doing this? It's not I think that people are acting in their own rational self-interest when they're creating markets for this. There's a reason that maybe we're not understanding. And when you attempt to go in and use a heavy-handed solution in these situations, what you end up doing is cutting off people from being able to access the goods and services that they want.
For the most part, in the long run, I'd tend to agree with that. Like if there is a diaper reselling market over the long term, I think though in a pandemic, the rules are a little bit different, because we're not actually. Hopefully, we get to the point, right, where things are whatever normal looks like, but we're back to normal-ish, or a new normal, or hopefully a better normal. We're not going to need a much higher level of Purell, or whatever. Some of these things, toilet paper, some of these things that we don't necessarily want to increase the quantities. And not only that, but if say Purell, is sold at a huge markup and is unevenly then distributed because only those that have the money for it can afford it, then some people are going to go without. And I think this pandemic has brought into stark contrast what happens when some of us have everything that we need and others don't have anything. We are all at risk. If your neighbor is sick, you're going to be more likely to get sick. If there's people, we collectively, if we shared the Purell, to continue the example, but I think it's true of a lot of resources. If it was spread more broadly, we would all be better off.
All right, so again, I don't know. I'm not sure if you can hear me if you're just talking over me, because you're an experienced person on radio interviews and you know how it's done. But I think it's actually more important to have increased prices during a pandemic, right? So think of something like Purell or like gasoline, what happens in like hurricanes or bottled water, things like that. By increasing prices when you have a limited supply, it reduces the incentive to hoard and to consume more than you need. And you've seen some stores do a thing where they'll say, okay, the first one's normal price, the second one's like $50 a case, right?
I endorse that. I think that's brilliant.
You like that part. So everyone's able to get like just a little bit, but like you want more. Then that doesn't make sense. And I think the response from stores has been to like they'll ration the products and said that, all right, we don't want to increase prices, but we don't want to run out either. So you can only buy 2 loaves of bread. But if you're a family of 10, 2 loaves of bread just ain't gonna cut it for a week. It ain't gonna work. So that's not a good response either. And it's even worse when those responses end up coming from government, because then it doesn't allow for the opportunity for people to be able to adapt and change to the situation and meet people's needs in creative ways. So on that front, again, I think that increasing prices during a pandemic is more important in some ways, or maybe the better solution is to do what we talked about. First item's normal price, second item's a higher price. That way it disincentivizes hoarding. But if you really want that second item, it's there, it's available for you. And allowing that type of stuff and not making laws against it, I think is really important.
Yeah, I think that's a better approach. I mean, I live alone and I eat a lot of eggs, and there was places where I couldn't even get more than one carton of eggs, and I'm like, come on, I can't even imagine what this is like for a family, a large family, and not only that, but then if I have to come back every day to the grocery store so that I can get another one carton of eggs, that's kind of making the problem worse, rather than it'd be better if I could just go once and stock up for a couple weeks.
Yeah, more risk. You get a situation where if you're going to have to come back 3-4 times a week, that doesn't work. And now I know we're running out of time before the next break, but I think it'll segue into what we had talked about before the show, the Amazon thing. Does Amazon do these gig worker things? Do they pay enough for people to be able to make a living? And, the question I want to talk about over the break or after the break is, if people aren't making a living on these, then why are they taking these jobs? Why take them? And then what should they do to change their situations, if anything at all? So we'll be back. We'll talk about that right after the break here on Radio Free New York. Thanks so much for listening.
Why do businesses choose to move their website from Wix and Squarespace to Simple Tech Innovations? Maybe it's their excellent customer service or attention to detail. Maybe it's their ability to give a truly customized solution. Or perhaps they just like the fact that Simple Tech is a local small business that builds great relationships with its clients. Whatever the reason may be, you can rest assured knowing that the local team at Simple Tech has your best interest in mind when building or updating your website. They're hands-on and love helping customers achieve their goals. But don't take my word for it. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. If your website doesn't match your dreams or isn't achieving your goals, give the professionals at Simple Tech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
Aircraft Environmental Systems proudly supports Radio Free New York. Rochester-based leaders in climate simulation chambers for America's R&D laboratories. We're experts in troubleshooting, calibrations, custom designs, and consulting for more than 40 years. Industry pioneers, we created the first ever fleet of temperature, humidity, and altitude test chambers available to rent coast to coast. Trained and trusted by environmental chamber manufacturers, we are ACES. Find us at acesinc.com.
The Rochester area franchise dealers are here to help their customers through these trying times. Service departments and collision centers are open. Vehicle sales are initially done remotely by telephone or electronic means until you're ready to visit the dealership and take delivery of your vehicle. Proper social distancing and cleaning protocols are followed at all dealerships. Please contact your preferred dealer to schedule sales or service appointments for a safe check-in, drop-off, or pickup process. Be safe and know the franchise dealers are here for you, Rochester.
Your business relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at Simple Tech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, Simple Tech Innovations should be your first call. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
Radio Free New York.
I get the economic hardship. Everybody gets it. Everybody feels it. You want to go to work? Go take a job as an essential worker. Do it tomorrow. No, there are people hiring. You can get a job as an essential worker. So now you can go to work and you're not going to kill anyone.
All right, welcome back to Radio Free New York. Yeah, that's our the most frustrating clip of Andrew Cuomo for the week. And we're back again with Andrew Brady, who is the founder and chair of Conscious Capitalism Rochester. And we're talking about some of the kind of moral obligations of businesses. And I did want to push back on one of the things that you talked about. It's kind of related to that Cuomo quote, so that's why we played it, is, if the working conditions in these places aren't great, if the pay isn't great to make a living, then why are people taking these jobs? Don't you think that they know what's best for them and their lives? If they're taking this job, it's because it's something they wanted to do and it's the best way to be able to feed and support their families?
Yeah, well, unfortunately, we live in a world where, especially here in Rochester, you can look at the disparate educational, situations just in the city school district, and then just a few miles down the road, some of the best schools, public schools in the country, and so the opportunities available are certainly pretty disparate, and oftentimes not to not of the fault of that individual. You can predict their outcomes based on their zip code in a lot of cases, and so some of those kind of disparities are something that should not be overlooked. But the other thing that's really at play, and especially happens when you have concentrated market power, is in addition to everybody's heard of a monopoly, where there's only one place that you can go to buy something, that place can really then set the prices that they want. So because if you want this product, you have to go through them. But on the other end of that is what they call monopsony, and that is when there's basically one there's a few, like, kind of that concentrated market power, but in the labor market. And so when you don't have maybe the skills to get a middle skills job, or you're not a knowledge worker or whatever, you kind of have to take whatever's out there. And you can there's all kinds of folks that, again, by no fault of their own, by the zip code that they grew up, maybe by the color of their skin, all different factors that are at play, they aren't able to they didn't have those opportunities growing up to get the education to get a whatever kind of job that might be higher paying, so they have to take what they can get. And I personally don't think that that someone should be working 40, 50, 60 hours a week and still not be able to put food on the table. And in a lot of ways, if you think about Walmart as an example, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but they have an incredible amount of people that are actual Walmart employees that still have to take benefits, for example, from the government, all of those sorts of things. So we are subsidizing Walmart because they're not paying their employees enough to get by, and so now the government has to step in to at least have a baseline living standard. And I'm sure you're going to disagree with most of what I just said, so jump right in.
Yep, no, there you go. I was going to let you finish your whole point. It's going to let you, I'll let you get the full argument in, but. With what you said, I'm not sure that I agree on the monopsony. I can never pronounce that word, monopsony thing. Right now, at least prior to the pandemic, right now we're in kind of a weird situation. Right now, it's go become an essential worker. Those are jobs that are available. There's only a few businesses that are able to operate, and so the situation's a bit different. But prior to this, a lot of employers are begging people to be able to. There's actually a competitive labor market where it was hard to get good employees in. That employers are starting to train their employees more and be more open to people coming in with fewer experiences because they're unable to find people to be able to do that. And there's such a preference for being able to work at the job you want under the conditions that you want that it's becoming more difficult for employers to be able to recruit good employees. And then even in like the gig worker jobs, like you have such a level of flexibility with those types of things. If you're a gig employee and you want to hop between Instacart, you want to hop between Amazon or Uber or Lyft, if you have the capital resource to be able to do that, you have a car, then you're able to look at all those options and say, okay, well, this one this time is going to be able to pay me the most, and I can hop on at 7 o'clock at night when I want to, and that's what works for my schedule. That's making me enough money to be able to do what I want to do, and that's the arrangement that I want. And I don't think that it makes any sense for the government to be able to interfere in those types of relationships when this is the path that makes the most sense for most of those people.
Yeah, I think that one of the things that this really brings up is kind of in addition to a lot of benefits related discussions, but certainly healthcare is one of them, and tying it to your employment and how ridiculous that really has become. Because honestly, one of the big things that then happens, I totally agree that it's a great thing if you are able to, for example, maybe your business isn't going well for you, or you got hours cut at work, and let me just pick up a few hours, driving for Uber or whatever, to be able to pay the bills this week. But if your only opportunities are gig work and you are putting in maybe with Uber and with Grubhub and whatever other TaskRabbit, whatever other things that are out there, and maybe you're working 60, 70 hours a week, but it's spread in multiple part-time jobs. You have no healthcare, you have no benefits, all of those things that you should be, getting if you are working the equivalent amount of hours with one employer.
Yeah, I mean, I find it tough to say though that like that's your only option, right? Like there are other options out there if you want to be able to get that. And I get like these are jobs that are available. They're low risk. There are issues with less so in Rochester in particular, but like if you have a criminal record, I know it's hard to get a full time job. If you have certain conditions, it's difficult to get a full time job, and I'm empathetic to that. And my take on that as well. We need to kind of fix some of those legal challenges and criminal justice issues that create those barriers. But I'm not sure that in under normal conditions that's true. And I did get a comment from Samantha, who commented on YouTube, who said that some people work part time at Walmart so they can get benefits. And there's this idea of kind of a welfare cliff where there's a lot of financial incentives to only work part time and to get those benefits, because if you work over a certain number of hours in a given time period, you lose all those, and it's benefits worth thousands of dollars. So don't we have a problem there where government incentives have created those conditions?
Yeah, no, I will. So I will definitely, I will concede on that point for sure. I think that the way that things were set up, there is that benefits cliff. There should be more of a graduated, so as you make more, maybe they slowly go away rather than just hitting a hard number, and all those benefits go away, because that would incentivize people to to get back into the workforce and to put themselves out there, all those sorts of things. So I think there are definitely unintended consequences, as there are with anything, that any kind of changes that we're trying to make. But at the same time, if we don't make any changes, and again, I know there's a point that I'm not going to change your mind over the course of the next couple minutes of the end of this show, is that if we don't make any changes, then or we don't have any kind of regulation, then I guess I'd be interested in your perspective. If someone is working 70 hours a week and still not able to put food on the table because they're making so little at Uber and Lyft, what would you suggest to them to to go elsewhere if they can't find work?
Yeah, I mean, there are plenty of options available. Again, if you're able to start to build some of those skills on your own. I mean, I think that there needs to be changes to how employers approach hiring people. I think there's been a long culture of we need someone who's already like ready to hit the ground running, ready to go, has a ton of experiences. Employers used to spend more resources training people, and it's become a bigger challenge for people who are newer to the labor force or are switching careers. Now, in this situation though, again, if you're working that many hours a week and you're doing these jobs, like you have the option to be able to choose what you want to be able to do. There are times when Uber pays more money, so go do that. There are times when Lyft pays more money, go do that. There are times when Instacart pays more money, go do that. The other thing you can do, which is something I did want to talk to you about, is you could demand that the employer raise those prices. You can work with other workers. You can say, yeah, it may surprise many people, I'm not necessarily against worker organization. I don't particularly like public sector unions, but like if workers want to work together, say, hey, this is nonsense, I don't want to do this anymore, then why shouldn't they be able to work together to try to ask their employers to negotiate for better wages and conditions?
Yeah, well, maybe we'll have to continue this conversation another time because I think it's tomorrow that they're planning a big general strike. There's been a lot of small ones for a lot of these gig workers, and they're planning to do something larger on a larger scale tomorrow, May 1st. So it'll be interesting to see if they have any success.
Yeah, no, I'm fine for that. I mean, like, to me, I'm like, that's the way to do it. Just ask demand that your employers give you more stuff. Don't get the government involved because you end up with so many unintended consequences. But Andrew Brady, we're out of time. Thank you so much for joining us today. Andrew Brady, who is the founder of Conscious Capitalism Rochester. In like 10 seconds or less, where can people find you?
ConsciousCapitalismRoc.org and a weekly podcast at fortheevolutionofbusiness.com.
All right, thanks again for joining us here on Radio Free New York. We will be back tomorrow at noon. Talk to you then.
At